Think you know the difference between a psychopath, narcissist, and sociopath? Most people use these terms interchangeably, completely missing the life-threatening distinctions that could determine whether you're dealing with someone who's emotionally damaged, manipulatively dangerous, or potentially violent. While you're treating all toxic people the same way, you're using completely wrong strategies that could escalate danger with one type while being unnecessarily harsh with another. You're bringing empathy to someone incapable of feeling it, setting boundaries with someone who sees them as challenges to destroy, or avoiding someone who might actually be capable of change. What I am about to reveal draws from Dr. Robert Hare's 3 decades of psychopathy research at the University of British Columbia, Dr. Otto Kernberg's clinical work on narcissistic personality disorder at Cornell Medical College, and Dr. Martha Stout's research at Harvard Medical School documented in the Sociopath Next Door, showing how these 3 personality types differ in brain structure, motivation, and danger level. You can either learn the 7 critical differences that determine whether you're dealing with someone who's treatable, manageable, or genuinely dangerous, or continue using the wrong approach with the wrong personality type and potentially put yourself at serious risk. Today, I'm revealing the 7 research-documented differences between psychopaths, narcissists, and sociopaths that could save your life, your sanity, and your resources by helping you identify exactly which type of toxic personality you're facing and respond appropriately. Let's start with the difference that determines your immediate safety level. Difference number 1, the violence threshold. The first critical difference that could save your life is their relationship with violence and aggression. And understanding this distinction determines your immediate safety strategy. Narcissists use reactive violence. Dr. Otto Kernberg's clinical research at Cornell Medical College indicates that narcissists lash out when their ego is threatened, their control is challenged, or their self-image is damaged. Studies show their violence is emotional, often impulsive, and typically followed by either justification or genuine remorse depending on their level of self-awareness. Sociopaths use explosive violence. Research published in forensic psychology journals suggests that sociopaths have poor impulse control and may become violent during emotional outbursts, substance use, or when their immediate desires are frustrated. Clinical studies indicate their violence tends to be disorganized and often regretted afterward. Psychopaths use instrumental violence. Dr. Robert Hare's research at the University of British Columbia shows that psychopaths harm others as a calculated tool to achieve specific goals: control, entertainment, or resource acquisition. Studies indicate their violence is premeditated, emotionally detached, and never followed by genuine remorse. The safety implications. FBI behavioral analysis suggests that narcissistic violence often escalates during relationship conflicts or public humiliation. It's predictable and situation-specific. Sociopathic violence may be more random but is often impulsive rather than planned. Psychopathic violence can appear without warning and seems disproportionate because it serves internal goals invisible to observers. Critical research finding. Studies indicate that the narcissist might hit you in rage and feel terrible afterward. The sociopath might hurt you during an emotional outburst and regret it later. The psychopath might harm you methodically while maintaining perfect emotional control, then comfort you afterward to maintain access and control. Difference number 2. The empathy spectrum. The second critical difference lies in their capacity for empathy, and this distinction determines whether change is possible and what strategies might work. Narcissists have damaged empathy. Research from UCLA's Department of Psychology shows that narcissists actually have hyperactive mirror neuron systems, meaning they feel others' emotions intensely but shut down this capacity to protect their fragile self-image. Clinical studies suggest they can feel empathy, but it's buried under layers of defensive mechanisms. Sociopaths have impaired empathy. Dr. Martha Stout's research at Harvard Medical School indicates that sociopaths may have reduced empathetic capacity due to trauma, brain injury, or developmental factors, but they retain some ability to form emotional attachments to specific individuals, usually family members or close friends. Psychopaths have absent empathy. Neuroscience research from Dr. James Blair at the National Institute of Mental Health reveals that psychopaths show no activation in brain regions responsible for emotional empathy, even when directly witnessing suffering. Studies indicate they literally cannot feel what others feel due to structural brain differences. The treatment implications. Clinical research suggests that narcissists might develop empathy through intensive therapy because the neurological capacity exists but is suppressed. Sociopaths may improve their empathetic responses through treatment, especially if their impairment resulted from treatable causes. Psychopaths cannot develop genuine empathy because they lack the necessary neurological hardware. The relationship reality. Research indicates you might reach a narcissist through their buried empathy during moments of genuine vulnerability. You might connect with a sociopath through their limited but real emotional attachments. You cannot reach a psychopath through empathy because they experience it as weakness rather than connection. Difference number 3. The motivation matrix. The third critical difference is what drives their destructive behavior, and understanding this determines your entire response strategy and safety planning. Narcissists are driven by ego protection. Clinical research published in personality psychology journals indicates that narcissistic cruelty serves to maintain their fragile self-image and avoid the crushing shame of feeling inadequate. Studies suggest their manipulation is defensive, designed to preserve their grandiose self-concept against perceived threats. Sociopaths are driven by emotional dysregulation. Research from the University of Washington shows that sociopathic behavior often stems from inability to manage intense emotions, childhood trauma, or neurological damage affecting impulse control. Clinical studies indicate their harmful actions frequently result from emotional overwhelm rather than calculated planning. Psychopaths are driven by stimulation seeking. Dr. Robert Hare's research indicates that psychopaths manipulate and harm others for entertainment, control, and the neurochemical reward they receive from dominating others. Studies show their cruelty is recreational, serving no defensive purpose but providing genuine pleasure. The predictability factor. Research suggests that narcissistic aggression spikes when their self-image is threatened, but decreases when their ego is sufficiently managed. Sociopathic behavior may be triggered by specific stressors, substances, or emotional situations. Psychopathic aggression is consistent and calculated, unrelated to self-esteem or emotional states, but tied to opportunity and boredom levels. The management reality. Clinical studies indicate you might sometimes manage a narcissist by carefully managing their ego needs without compromising your own well-being. You might help a sociopath by addressing underlying trauma or stressors with professional support. You cannot manage a psychopath. Any attempt provides them with entertainment and more information about your vulnerabilities. Difference number 4, the relationship blueprint. The fourth critical difference is how they conceptualize and use relationships, revealing their true danger level and your appropriate response strategy. Narcissists view relationships as ego supply sources. Clinical research indicates they need constant admiration, validation, and attention to maintain their inflated self-image. Studies suggest you exist to reflect their greatness back to them, and when you fail to provide sufficient narcissistic supply, they become angry and punishing, but they still need you to fulfill this function. Sociopaths form selective attachments. Dr. Martha Stout's research at Harvard Medical School suggests that sociopaths can develop genuine emotional bonds with specific individuals. Though these relationships may be tumultuous due to their emotional dysregulation and impulse control issues. Clinical studies indicate they're capable of loyalty and care within their limited attachment circle. Psychopaths view relationships as resource extraction opportunities. Research from the University of British Columbia shows that psychopaths systematically identify what you have that they want and create relationships specifically to gain access to it. Studies indicate you're not a person to them. You're a collection of assets to be harvested. The attachment reality. Clinical research shows that narcissists need you to think they're wonderful, creating a dependency that can sometimes be leveraged for behavioral change. Sociopaths may genuinely care about you within their limited capacity, making some relationships possible with appropriate boundaries and professional support. Psychopaths need you to give them what they want, and once they've extracted your resources or grown bored, they'll discard you without genuine emotional impact. The cycling pattern. Studies indicate that narcissists will keep returning because they need your validation. Sociopaths may cycle back due to genuine attachment or emotional dependency. Psychopaths only return if they believe you still have something valuable to extract or if you've become a challenge worth conquering. Difference number 5, the change capacity. The fifth critical difference determines whether there's any hope for improvement, and this knowledge could save you years of wasted effort and an emotional investment. Narcissists can change with intensive therapy, genuine motivation, and usually a significant life crisis that forces them to confront their behavior patterns. Clinical research published in personality disorder journals shows that change is difficult, requires years of work, and often involves periods of depression as they face their underlying shame and trauma. Studies indicate their brains can develop healthier emotional regulation patterns through neuroplasticity. Sociopaths may improve significantly with appropriate treatment, especially if their antisocial behavior stems from treatable causes like trauma, substance abuse, or neurological issues. Research from trauma psychology indicates that some sociopaths can develop better impulse control, emotional regulation, and social functioning with comprehensive therapeutic intervention. Psychopaths cannot change in any meaningful way with current treatment methods. Dr. Robert Hare's comprehensive research shows that therapy often makes psychopaths more effective manipulators by teaching them the language of emotions and recovery without the corresponding internal experience. Studies indicate their brain structure differences cannot be altered through therapy, medication, or life experiences. The hope reality. Clinical research suggests there might be hope for a narcissist who genuinely wants to change and commits to intensive treatment, though the process is lengthy and difficult. There may be significant hope for a sociopath who receives appropriate trauma-informed care and develops better coping strategies. There is no hope for a psychopath to develop genuine empathy, remorse, or moral reasoning. They can only learn to better mimic these responses. The investment decision. Research indicates that investing in a narcissist's change requires clear evidence of genuine motivation and professional therapeutic support. Investing in a sociopath's improvement may be worthwhile if they demonstrate real commitment to treatment. Investing in a psychopath's change is futile and potentially dangerous, as it only provides them with more opportunities for manipulation and exploitation. Difference number 6, the emotional signature. The sixth critical difference is their emotional expression patterns, and recognizing this can prevent years of confusion, gaslighting, and psychological trauma. Narcissists have volatile emotions. Clinical research shows they experience genuine rage, hurt, joy, and fear, but these emotions are disproportionate and self-centered. Studies indicate their emotional responses are real but immature, like a child's emotions in an adult's body with adult capabilities for harm. Research suggests their emotions are always filtered through their self-image and ego needs. Sociopaths have dysregulated emotions. Research published in emotional psychology journals indicates that sociopaths feel emotions intensely but struggle to manage them appropriately. Clinical studies suggest they may experience genuine love, anger, fear, and sadness, but their emotional responses are often extreme, unpredictable, or inappropriate to the situation due to poor emotional regulation skills. Psychopaths have performed emotions. Neuroscience research from the University of Wisconsin shows that psychopaths display whatever emotional expression serves their current goal, but these are learned behaviors rather than felt experiences. Studies indicate their genuine emotional range is limited to variations of anger, boredom, and predatory excitement. But they can simulate the full spectrum of human emotion with disturbing accuracy, the authenticity test. Research suggests you can sometimes reach a narcissist through their genuine emotions, even if those emotions are self-centered. You might connect with a sociopath during moments when their authentic emotions break through their dysregulation. You cannot connect with a psychopath through emotions because every emotional display is strategic theater designed to manipulate your responses. The recognition pattern. Clinical studies indicate that narcissistic emotions, while self-centered, show genuine physiological responses. Real tears, authentic anger, visible distress. Sociopathic emotions may be intense but chaotic, with rapid shifts that reflect their internal emotional turmoil. Psychopathic emotions often seem slightly off, too perfect for the situation, poorly timed, or inconsistent with their behavior when they think no one is watching. Difference number 7, the recovery impact. The seventh critical difference is how their abuse affects your recovery process, and understanding this is crucial for your healing and future relationship decisions. Narcissistic abuse creates what therapists call complex trauma. Research from trauma psychology indicates you're dealing with emotional manipulation, gaslighting, and ego attacks. But the narcissist's genuine emotions mean there were probably moments of real connection mixed with the abuse. Clinical studies suggest this creates confusion about what was real and what was manipulation, leading to cognitive dissonance and self-doubt. Sociopathic abuse creates what specialists term chaotic trauma. Research indicates you're recovering from unpredictable emotional volatility, possible violence, and inconsistent treatment from someone who may have genuinely cared about you but couldn't regulate their behavior appropriately. Studies suggest the trauma involves grieving both the harm they caused and the person they might have been with proper treatment. Psychopathic abuse creates what clinical research calls predatory trauma. Studies show you're recovering from systematic exploitation by someone incapable of genuine human connection. Research indicates that every moment of apparent intimacy was calculated performance, which can shatter your ability to trust your own perceptions about relationships entirely. The recovery process. Clinical research suggests that recovery from narcissistic abuse often involves grieving the person you thought they could become while learning to recognize genuine versus performed emotions. Recovery from sociopathic abuse may involve processing the reality that someone who genuinely cared about you was still capable of significant harm. Recovery from psychopathic abuse involves accepting that the person you loved never existed at all. They were a carefully constructed character designed to exploit your specific vulnerabilities. The trust rebuilding. Research indicates that after narcissistic abuse, you may struggle with self-worth and reality testing, but can often rebuild trust gradually. After sociopathic abuse, you may struggle with emotional regulation and fear of intensity, but can learn to recognize healthy emotional expression. After psychopathic abuse, you may struggle with fundamental trust in your ability to assess people's character and intentions, requiring specialized therapeutic support to rebuild basic relationship skills. Research-based identification strategies. Here's your practical guide for determining which type of toxic personality you're facing, based on peer-reviewed research and clinical observations. The criticism test: point out a specific harm they've caused. A narcissist will defend, justify, or attack, but show emotional activation and genuine distress about their image. A sociopath may become explosively angry or deeply remorseful, showing intense but poorly regulated emotional responses. A psychopath will remain calm, possibly apologize strategically, but show no genuine distress about the impact on you. The empathy assessment: describe genuine suffering, yours or someone else's. A narcissist will either make it about themselves or show discomfort and change the subject, but you'll see some emotional response. A sociopath may show genuine concern if they care about you, but their response might be intense or inappropriate. A psychopath will show inappropriate interest, subtle excitement, or complete indifference. The boundary challenge: set a clear, reasonable limit. A narcissist will argue, negotiate, or have an emotional reaction because boundaries threaten their control and ego. A sociopath may explode, comply erratically, or struggle with consistency due to poor impulse control. A psychopath will appear to accept it while immediately planning circumvention, seeing boundaries as challenges to overcome. The change discussion suggests they modify problematic behavior. A narcissist will resist because change threatens their self-image, but may eventually comply if their ego needs are managed. A sociopath may genuinely want to change but struggle with follow-through due to emotional dysregulation. A psychopath will appear agreeable while having no intention of actual change, viewing your request as useful information about your expectations. The consistency observation: watch them across different social contexts. A narcissist's personality remains relatively consistent, but their mood varies dramatically based on ego threats and supply. A sociopath's behavior may be unpredictable due to emotional volatility, but their core personality remains recognizable. A psychopath's personality shifts completely based on what each audience rewards, like different characters in different settings. Research-based approach for each type. Your response strategy must match the specific type of toxic personality you're facing. For narcissists, gray rock method can work, but expect emotional escalation first as they fight for attention. Professional therapy might help if they're genuinely motivated by consequences or crisis. Careful ego management might reduce destructive behavior without compromising your boundaries. Document everything, but know they might respond to accountability if their image is at stake. For sociopaths, trauma-informed therapy and substance abuse treatment may significantly improve their behavior. Clear, consistent boundaries with natural consequences can help them develop better impulse control. Emotional support during treatment can be valuable but maintain safety boundaries. Professional guidance is essential due to their emotional volatility and potential for improvement. For psychopaths, complete no contact is the only safe long-term strategy for personal relationships. Never attempt therapy or reasoning. It only provides them with better manipulation tools. Expect escalation if they realize you're withdrawing and have safety plans in place. Focus on legal protection, documentation, and professional security consultation if necessary. The critical insight. Research indicates that narcissists are emotionally dangerous people who might change with intensive intervention. Sociopaths are dysregulated people who may improve significantly with appropriate treatment. Psychopaths are neurologically dangerous people who cannot change and should be avoided entirely. The 7 life-saving differences. Remember the critical distinctions that could determine your safety and strategy. The violence threshold, reactive versus explosive versus instrumental aggression. The empathy spectrum, damaged versus impaired versus absent empathy. The motivation matrix, ego protection versus emotional dysregulation versus stimulation seeking. The relationship blueprint, supply source versus selective attachment versus resource extraction. The change capacity, possible versus likely versus impossible improvement. The emotional signature, volatile versus dysregulated versus performed emotions. The recovery impact, complex versus chaotic versus predatory trauma. The most dangerous mistake is treating all toxic people the same way. Your empathy might help a narcissist, your support might transform a sociopath, but your compassion will be weaponized by a psychopath. Know the differences. Respond appropriately. Your safety, sanity, and future relationships depend on understanding that while all 3 types can cause harm, only one of them is truly beyond redemption. If any of this content has triggered distressing memories or concerns about your safety, please reach out to a mental health professional, your domestic violence hotline or crisis line,